Hey, what's up, guys? It's Clay with Ghost Note Audio. Today, we're going to talk about the basics of humanizing program drums. So, I think with technology advancing and more options being available for different sample libraries and stuff like that, guitarists such as myself and songwriters in general have now been opened up to a world of making drums sound pretty awesome inside your DAW. So, we're going to spend some time today taking a pre-programmed beat I made and making it sound a little bit more human. So let me play you the beginning of how it started. And what you'll notice is all my velocities are at 127. Because I think starting out, we just want to make it sound loud. Okay, here it is. Cool, the idea's there, but God, it just sounds smashed. And the reason we want to avoid 127 is because it's hard to compress something when it's already being hit as hard as possible. And the whole goal of this video, and hopefully your goal as a songwriter, is creating something more realistic. So we took that beat, and through some basic processes, we made it sound like this. Hey, already sounds a little bit better, right? Okay, so how did I get from A to B? Let's take a look, and we're going to take a couple steps back. I'm going to re-quantize everything. I'm going to bring it all back to about 120. That's usually the starting point I like to do. I usually say that not to kind of go over 120 on your velocities, because that way you have some headroom left for compression and limiting and everything else that comes with drum mixing. Now remember, this purpose of this video is not to talk about mixing the drums. It's just talking about making them sound more like they were actually performed. So to start with, we have our 120. Next up, we're going to want to go in and kind of pick out, let me zoom in on this so you guys can see it better. We want to go in and kind of pick out these upbeats and these doubles and give them just a little bit more of a realistic touch. Okay, let's do this one too. All right, 120, we're going to back it down by 10. Okay, next up I'll do the cymbals. Back those down to 110. So you have a 10 velocity variance between the hardest hit and the softest. And then we'll let the humanization kind of do the rest. Oh yeah, these double snares, let's take those off. I'll explain that in a sec. So let's just hear that. Yeah, a little bit. They breathe a little bit better than, let's go back to how they used to sound. Now I'm using this gain plugin to kind of take care of the velocity volume increase. So, God, you hear how they just sound just squashed. It's kind of fatiguing. Okay, next up, so we have this. Sounds pretty good. We're going to do the humanization inside Logic. Now remember, you can use any DAW for this, so it doesn't just have to be Logic. I think Cubase has this going on as well. Go to humanization. Okay, I like to go about 5. I think 5 works pretty well. And then position, that's where it really gets that more humanistic approach. I'll go pretty drastic with it sometimes. This one consider like a more like a rock beat. So with a rock beat, it's gonna have a little bit more room to kind of have some pull and tug to it versus like something like a death metal beat or something. Okay, did that. Let's hear what it did to it. Okay, notice what happened is it pushed our cymbals over just a bit. So we're gonna put them back on the grid. There we go. I like it. It sounds cool. Okay, so I know I wanted this snare to be more in between like a ghost note hit. Okay, and then same thing with these kind of hi-hats. They're hitting a little bit too hard. Okay, let's hear that. Cool, that's almost there. So the reason I took off that extra snare hit is because I like to kind of take it up to the rim shot and add that in there for the more prominent snare hits. But the reason I did it after the humanization is because if you have before, you're going to have, 2 hits that are supposed to be aligned to be more swayed, almost to the degree to where they're almost like flamming, I guess. So I do it after humanization so I can get it accurate. Okay, and what I'll do is if these are 117, I'll take them down by 20. About 100. That's good. Cool. That gets us there, and that's definitely usable. And, I think don't want to make my drummer friends mad, but I think it's definitely workable for songwriting and mixing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about another process. So I mentioned about all the sample libraries that are available. Well, also, they've done tons of work with Midi sample packs. So what that is basically drummers will come in and record on an E-kit, and they sell those beats to be used in songwriting and other applications. This is from one of the Superior Drummer libraries, the Progressive Foundry one. It's a really cool drum beat selection. It works for both metal and rock, and I've used it in a ton of writing processes. And if you take a look, you see, wow, it's even way more humanistic than what I was able to actually get with the programming drums. You see the variance on the cymbals, now with the E-kit, they actually go up to 127 because they're hitting these pads really hard. But it sounds good. It's not like it's ruining the beat. So let's take a listen. Pretty cool. So I like my beat. I don't want to really change my beat. So here's what I've done over the past few years. Remember, you don't have to do this. We're totally fine with just doing something like this. But this really opens some options. So what I did is I selected the same distance as my other track. Okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to delete all his drums. Okay, bye. All right, so then I'll go back to my original beat and I will delete all my cymbals. I don't need them. Okay, even this little hi-hat thing. Oops. Okay, let's drag over the new thing. Add it. Okay, join it up. Okay, now let's hear what it did to our beat. That sounds way better. Way better. Okay, so I know it's tedious, but these are the kind of steps you need to take to get a realistic drum sound with your programming. Okay, let's talk about fills for a couple seconds. All right, so I'm going to add a fill into our drum beat. Right at the end, we're going to just take what we have and add to it. Let's do a tom flam. Okay. Let's see. I'll actually bring that cymbal back. Let's take a listen. Really basic. And this brings up a good point. Drum fills are really, really hard to make sound realistic. I think that's the biggest boundary between programming drum beats and then using a drum performance is getting those variances. You can make the beat sound pretty realistic. When you get to drum fill, it's just really hard. And, at this point, even just a simple beat like this sounds super robotic. Doesn't sound very good. So that's another thing that I'll get from these sample packs is I'll take a drum fill that he had performed. Okay, add that in my beat. Now check this out. Join in so you can see it. Oops. Awesome. You notice it's more hard hitting than the normal beat. So I probably will go in on this one and just pull it back just a hair so it doesn't sound like he just exploded with a Bang energy drink. Let's check it again. Cool. I love it. Works great. And it's a little more, you can kind of hear the air in the beat. You can hear the level of realism in it. Once we actually compress and mix the drums, it'll sit really well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. And thanks for watching.